Hey guys, thanks so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel, and on this podcast, we're all about helping gamers realize their full potential. And it's all about taking those skills that you learn in gaming and applying it to the real world so that you can level up your career, level up your life, earn the impact in the income that you're looking for. And today I have a very special guest. This is Matt, and Matt is a lawyer and a prosecutor, and and a gamer. So he's gonna share with us kind of that journey and how that works for him. So Matt, thanks so much and welcome. How are you?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So,
Wonderful.
so being a lawyer, so yeah, it's one of the career paths that I thought about, but I was like, yeah, not for me particularly. But being a gamer and a lawyer, I think there's this, I'll call it a stereotype, right? The stuffy court lawyer, right? That you see in all the dramas and stuff. How is it being a gamer in that world? Is it like that? Is it not? How is it being a prosecutor and a gamer? I'm very curious how that looks and what your journey is. So please share with us.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll start with the obvious. Real court isn't TV. It's not video games. You know, I like the Ace Attorney series. I've played Danganronpa. Real court's much less screaming at each other and pounding your fists on the table. It's much more reading. Even prosecution, where we spend most of our day in court, is much more, hey, this defendant wants to get out on bail. What do what's your position? Well, judge, he beat up three people, so we we oppose his release, as opposed to calling a parent to testify or anything ridiculous like that.
Slamming the desk or slamming the
Yeah,
thing and pointing.
yeah, it's totally inappropriate,
Yeah.
and obviously, sending a falcon to attack your opponent is
I'm
you'd
sure
be there
not.
for in about 1 second.
Because that's what very interesting with the Ace Attorney series too. Because like it gives obviously being a game, it's much more what do you want to call it? Just very over the top in terms of making it, I guess, more interesting and more lively than it should be. Because there's definitely some of those things where I'm like, well, that's not gonna fly in a real court, right? So
Yeah, and the Ace Attorney series specifically is meant to be a parody of the Japanese legal system, where basically once someone's accused, they're guilty.
that's
But
what,
I
yeah.
mean, that's an entire tangent that's not super related.
Well, it is and it isn't because it's very interesting because I lived in Japan for 2 years and uh, so not intimately familiar with their legal system, but like at least heard stories enough from people and around like, and that's what I heard was like they have what is it some over a 99% conviction rate, right?
Oh
So like
yes,
if it goes to trial, you're guilty, right?
oh yes. There
So
was
very
actually
interesting that
one.
the Ace Attorney kind of game series kind of reflects that in a way where it's just like, if it's so much more of a struggle as in the game as the defending lawyer to be like, how do I get them out? Because there's everything is stacked against you once you get to the court, right? So,
Oh yes, and I mean at least in the American legal system, along with the other common law countries, I don't basically get to just go, hey, Daniel's accused of murder. And then your attorney's like, no, he's not. I'm like, well, you got to prove that not only was it not him, but you need to figure out who it was and how they did it. That obviously wouldn't fly.
right. It's so yeah, so much more over the top too. So it's very crazy. So I wanted to talk a little bit about being the gamer, right, in the courtroom. And so tell us a little bit first about kind of your gamer journey. Like when did you start playing games? And we've already talked Ace Attorney, of course, but like what's kind of other genres
Oh,
that you enjoy?
my age is going to show real quickly here. I remember Theme Park on the MS-DOS prompt. So I've been playing for quite a while.
Hmm.
I had a Nintendo when I was a small child playing Castlevania.
Yep.
I mean, I've been playing for over 3 decades now. I mean, I'm currently playing Silk Song, as is I'm sure virtually everybody
That's a
else.
lot of people playing Silk Song right now as of recording. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't really have a better answer than I've been doing this for
Been
longer
doing it
than
a
most of
while.
the people have been alive.
Gotcha. Yeah, no worries. So really, I think that the question that I have, and I'm sure a lot of listeners would have, is specifically that tie-in, right? So being a gamer, did that help you become a lawyer, or what was the reason for the passion to become a lawyer? And then we can talk about how being a gamer and a lawyer kind of how that feels, how that works, right?
Yeah. So I can answer half of that question.
Hmm.
Sorry, the other half is one of those. It is so personally obvious that if someone were to look up the news report, they'd be like, I know exactly who this person is
Ah,
because it was
okay.
such a freak incident.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll avoid that particular side of the question, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so how is gaming? You know, a lot of older games required a lot of reading and a lot of puzzles that were really counterintuitive. A lot of law is shockingly the same way, and people, not super familiar with the system don't want to believe that most of it is so much of, oh, well, here's a specific rule, but we really don't know what's going on this side. And so, how do we put the pieces together? I don't want to quote Professor Layton and suggest that everything's a puzzle, but to an extent, it is.
And in some ways it okay. So you have it's and as a lawyer, do you feel like it's often like you're trying to complete a puzzle and you don't have all the pieces, for
Oh,
example?
absolutely. I mean, in criminal prosecution, we have to turn over everything we have to the defense. The defense doesn't do the same to us. So I it's essentially me playing a game of poker where I have to play open hand facing you, and then you
Uh,
essentially get to say, well, I think I'm going to win this hand, so I'm actually going to gamble.
Interesting. That's I have not heard it described that way, and that's what so not knowing enough about the prosecution in law. So you as the prosecutor, you have to turn over everything, and the defense does not. So a very good analogy for those that those that enjoy poker and everything, playing so you can see the cards. So
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, there are some specific things they have to turn over, like if you're going to do an alibi defense, or if you're going to claim mental health.
mhm.
But generally, they know everyone I'm going to call. They know generally what they're going to say because police officers basically say what's in the report. They have the victim statements, and if and the defendant decides they want to testify, or their friend wants to testify, I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna say. I don't even know if you were there, but I'm getting these new pieces of the puzzle and I have to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and being able to do that, I'm sure quickly, right, is definitely a skill that you have to
Yeah.
really master, right?
Yeah, it is kind of like the Danganronpa trials where you don't have time to just keep refreshing. You need to move. And you also, don't get to rewind the tape, so to say. It happens once, that's what you're gonna get.
Wow. Yeah, that's and I think that's just really powerful and maybe and you tell me what you think as far as like being a gamer, right? To say having that ability because there are many games where it is that split second reaction, right? If something happens on
Oh
screen, you're
yes.
like, well, hope you jumped over the thing or avoided the obstacle or shot the dude, whatever it was. Otherwise, your character's gone. You fall in the pit, you're dead, whatever it is. Right. So you
Oh
have to
yeah.
react fast. Right. So do you feel like that's helped you in any way as far as like going into these courtroom scenes, at least like in your mind, at least that there's some kind of connection there that says like I do it in games, therefore
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, I
inherently better,
definitely
right?
think it helps. I mean, it's probably been a year, so I'm sorry I forget its name. But the people who made the game Plague Inc. made one where you can play as either the doctor saving the patient or the plague killing the patient. And I think in a kind of weird way that helps because it's like, oh well, all of a sudden something just popped up. I need to address it now.
Yeah,
And
that level of triage, right? To be like, I need yeah, this is the highest priority, right? That's
yeah, and I mean, especially because in court, you have a bunch of officers, not during a trial, but just a normal day. You might have witnesses and victims where people are constantly trying to pass you a note or, oh, well, he has something, we didn't know about. And I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? Judge, I need 3 seconds. Okay, Judge, I'm withdrawing that charge actually. Done. Okay, next. What are we doing?
wow. So, so you got to do this all on the fly. That's wow.
Yeah, it's part of the job and probably the only part of the TV shows and games that do lawyers that underrepresents it instead of making it sound sexy and fun. That's the only time where we're actually like doing something TV worthy.
Gotcha. So that part, that's real.
Yeah, like
That's
the routine chaos where everyone thinks this is normal
yeah.
because the whole system wants you to think that it's normal when in reality we're all doing it basically firing at the hip, so to say.
Right. I think it and on some level, right? So you say like, like everyone's human, right? Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's trying to do
Yeah, of
things last
course.
minute, right? So I came from like a corporate world, right? Before doing what I'm doing now, and that was always an interesting, situation where somebody would create a fire, so to speak. Something urgent came up, and then it passes to the next person. And I worked in supply chain, and I was like, all right, well, we need the widgets, and we need them now. And I'm like, you didn't order them. Like, I don't know
I
what you
love
want
that you
from
use
me.
the contract law term.
It is such the good term, right? So
Mm.
it's in all the th But yeah,
Oh
so
yeah.
that same level, right? As far as like just having to react, right? So quickly just for these kind of changes in just complete different circumstance a lot of the time. Uh, so how do you get ahead of it, or can you, right? Because are you aware of, I think it's called the Eisenhower matrix? You know what that is? The two by two grid, the urgent.
The so important, urgent,
Yeah,
unimportant.
that one.
Yeah.
Because for those that don't know, right, you do like the little two by two block, and you have it on a scale of urgency and then importance, right? And so the top block, it's urgent and important. It has to get done now, and it's super important. And then there's important but not urgent, right? Like these are your strategic things, like these are your long-term goals that you're trying to do. But I think a lot of people spend too much time in the urgent but not important category, right? Which is I have to react to this now. But do you? Sometimes it is a phone call where it's just somebody that wanted to talk about something that, you were busy doing actual work you were supposed to get doing, and you got distracted by the bing on your phone or phone call, something like that. So in the courtroom, how much of it is the strategy versus how much has to be reacted to?
Well, I mean, you strategize before court. I have coworkers. I'll, if I have doubts or something, I'll consult with them. They'll do the same with me. Some tasks get done by support staff. I mean, everyone thinks we do it. No, we don't do everything. My secretary handles my entire calendar, so I know where I have to be. Did a subpoena get sent out to officer two for this hearing? I don't know. Give me a second to text. Yes. And I mean, when it comes to actually in court and especially during, a trial with a jury, especially, some lawyers have differing strategies. Some will ask for a recess and, sit down to collect their thoughts. Some of us actually enjoyed the chaos and something unexpected happens and give me a second to take a sip of water. All right, let's keep going. Because
Okay, yeah. So being able to, so it sounds like if I'm understanding correctly, right? So and maybe what sometimes the shows don't portray enough or very minute, right? When they're out of the courtroom and they're like actually doing the work, right? The prep work, where that kind of gets glossed over, I think, because it's not sexy, right? It's not good TV if you're sitting there going through paperwork. But
Oh yeah.
that's kind of what you're saying. Like that's where the strategy aspect of it is.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, even in Ace Attorney, so we can stick to gaming.
Yeah.
You do Professor Layton and everything else. You do the investigation for 3 minutes while you click around, maybe talk to an officer here or there, and then 80% of the game is in trial. And it's like, no, we that would never work.
That would never.
Like we would just be dumbfounded, and we would be basically be making things up on the fly, which ethically
The
you can't
games, I
just
think
make
that
things
happens,
up.
right?
Yeah, like I can safely say I've never heard of anyone updating an autopsy report mid-trial. You'd be disbarred for that real quick.
Wow. Yeah.
And it would be a mistrial at best.
Yeah. That's wow. Yeah. So it's just funny how like yeah again the how the art side of it, the gaming, the TV, the dramas that are just so far distant from reality in certain aspects that it is kind of funny to kind of help ground it back to say like this is what it's actually like.
Yeah, but I mean, the gaming wouldn't be exciting if you spent 2 hours reading a police report, then you called the officer and went over it, and was there anything else you remembered, or did you see anything? No one would play that. That would be so boring.
Yeah, that'd be a wildly different game, and I don't know if you can call it a game at that point.
Yeah, like video gaming's supposed to be an escape from the real life. I mean, I'm sure even the work simulator games, farming simulator, are much more enjoyable than actually farming.
Yeah. And that's what yeah, because even those kind of games they usually have some kind of aspect of it that's much like most speed up, right? To get you past the quote real time aspect of it, right? Your farming simulator. The crops grow like fully in like what, like 2 hours of game time, maybe. Where it's like, in real world you gotta wait for that stuff. But
Yeah, like
the
you'd be sitting for 6 months.
yeah. The best comparison I heard was that one of my best friends said it's like when you especially like you're trying to build like your own business or something for like the entrepreneurs out there. If you're a gamer and you're looking to be an entrepreneur, one of the best quotes I heard was imagine playing a game on hardcore mode. So there's no save, there's no
Right,
restart, and you play it on the slowest speed possible, real time, and you can't change it. Imagine that as a game, and you're like,
right,
that doesn't sound super fun, or that's going to take a long time. It's like, yes, exactly.
right. But some people like it. I mean, some people play Civilization on what, ultra marathon, where it takes 85 turns to create the first scout of the game. But that's
Yeah.
some people like it.
Some people like that. And that's, yeah. So, not to dissuade people from doing it, it's just like, just make sure you're prepared and you understand the difference, right?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So as far as the gaming skills, I want to get back to some of the other kind of skills. Uh, so we talked a little bit about just kind of being able to have that kind of quick reaction, right? The reaction time, reaction speed, and just like the quick pattern recognition, basically, to say like, oh, here's a change. This is how I need to adapt, right?
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of other kind of gaming skills is yeah, that I like to say come forth into the rest of our lives if we play games. And along the similar vein, I think is problem solving. All right. So where, Matt, have you seen problem solving in both in kind of your personal life and your career, as far as how being a gamer has helped you with problem solving?
Well, sure. I mean, most games tend to be more binary, yes or no, all or nothing in quests and everything else. But I mean, even in, you know, most cases don't go to trial. They get, we do a plea agreement where essentially I'll say, hey, I could totally convict your guy of speeding at 35 miles per hour of the speed limit while he was drunk. But then the defense would come back and they'd be like, well, he says we can skip the trial if you would say 15 over. And I was like, all right. I mean, we if you remember the old theme park negotiating the salary where the two hands,
Mhm.
that's actually pretty accurate.
Okay.
And
Yeah. So that kind of negotiation, that back and forth to say like, what can you give, what can you take? Because otherwise it takes more time, more effort. In the case it does go to
right.
trial, right? And when it's like, so really, it's kind of using like your time as kind of like that resource, right? To
Oh yeah. I mean, but I mean that's kind of the same with any job is, you only have so many work hours in the day.
Yeah,
So
so
I
it's
mean,
it's utilization of resources and prioritization, right? Which I think gamers are
oh,
also good at because
yeah,
we
absolutely.
tend to, yeah, because if you're going to grind in a game, right, whether it's you're trying to get XP, money, whatever, in a game, you're going to find the most efficient way to do it. So I think by and large, I think gamers are usually, at least I've seen in my experience, where gamers, when they take that into a workplace, they tend to be a little bit more efficient with their time to try to do, sometimes it's for different reasons, right? They want to get ahead, so they're going to do, the most efficient work to get ahead. And some of them want to do the most efficient so that they can slack off the rest of the time. But either way, you're using your resources, like you're allocating your resources amazingly well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same in virtually every job or aspect of life. Some people want to make more money, some people want more time off.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah, it's just what's your goals, what's your priorities, right?
Of course.
Fantastic. One of the other skills definitely I've seen and noticed of gamers, I wanted to see as far as your own journey, is the skill of tenacity or resilience, right? Just the ability to keep going when things are not going well, right? How has that shown up for you? It's like, yeah, the game over screen of life, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, part of being a lawyer just generally, sometimes you miss a deadline. Sometimes, you ask the wrong question. Sometimes the judge is just having a bad day. Unfortunately, sometimes that means the judge isn't happy with you, and some judges tend to have a little bit of a temper. And we've all had it. We've all sat there, stood there. Well, a judge just hammers you for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then at the end, it's like, okay, judge, well, I'll call the next case. Then you just got to endure it. If you let it get to you, then you're going to start taking it home. You're going to let it affect your personal life, and you really shouldn't.
Yep.
It's just some work.
Yeah, and I think that's hard for some people, right? Probably hard for a lot of people. It's like they take that, frustration and they take it home,
No,
and then it
yeah.
kind of affects other aspects of their life. So have you, I guess, what sort of, I'll say, yeah, way have you dealt with that? Like, or would you have any advice for people that are kind of struggling maybe with that themselves, where they do get frustrated, in a workplace environment and they're taking that home and they wish they could leave work at work. What would you say to those people?
Honestly, you have a hobby you can play, enjoy it. Quit playing games on super hard mode, whatever one hit kill mode. I'm not saying play on easy, but play on a difficulty where you aren't going to be doing the same. I forget this stage of in Modern Warfare with the airplane, where if played on
Oh yeah.
veteran, you basically spent 6 hours memorizing every single enemy placement until you finally executed once. Don't
Yep.
do that. You're just making the problem you had at work, and now you're making it worse at home by further agitating yourself.
Yeah, but I totally get that because there's something to be said for that sense of winning, right? That sense of achievement that really helps us. And so having the frustration at work and at home with the game, yeah, not a good combo, right?
Yeah.
So
And,
yeah,
and the mission was called Mile High Club. I just remembered. I'm sorry.
perfect.
I haven't played in over a decade though, so I'm sure one of your listeners is probably hammering at the keyboard already.
Comments be like, it's that perfect. Oh, so much fun. So for this particular podcast, I want to make sure to be respectful of time, and so we'll slowly wind this particular episode down. But what would you say, as far as gaming skills that you've noticed for yourself, that have maybe come out in, like I said, in either your personal life or your at work? What's maybe one of the skills that maybe we've missed that that you would hone in on and say like, wow, this is a great skill I have as a gamer that I've used?
Um, something that you probably wouldn't think about would be, because police officers have body camera, we have surveillance footage in stores, is just we're already used to staring at a screen for 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, and just looking for when is that single moment that's going to be important. And I mean, that helps. One thing that some would say is a positive, others would say is a negative, is because, with especially with modern gaming, the amount of gore and blood that you see does help minimize the mental harm if you have to see it in part,
Mhm.
either, I have to go to an autopsy, or, I have to watch the officer go through the crime scene where, there was a bloody, murder, or, attack with a knife. I'm not saying it's the exact same as a video game, but it certainly helps that you at least have some level of, I don't want
Mhm.
to say comfort, but familiarity with it without freaking out when
Yeah.
the first time you have to do it, in as part of the job.
Gotcha. So yeah, understand that it's not the same, of course, but having at least some similarity or something to latch onto that your mind can latch onto that it doesn't just because I could imagine, and not experience that myself, but I could imagine that's probably a very high mental tax, mental toll, having to go through and it's not just the one time, right? So like if
Oh
you're
yeah.
doing a criminal prosecution, right, I'm sure it's multiple times, right?
No, I mean, even, one case, you might have to watch it three, four, 10 times
Hmm.
as part of editing to see what you're even allowed to show the jury if it goes to trial, because, there's rules in place that prevent me from basically going, here's Jack the Ripper slashing this person to death. Anyone, everyone's cool with that, right? You can't do that. That's far too gruesome for you know the jury to have to watch.
Wow. Okay. But as the prosecutor, unfortunately, you said you have
Yeah,
to
it's
watch.
part of the job is you
Yep.
do watch that because you need to be able to prove it.
Yeah. Oof. So then, so question on or are you familiar with observation duty games? Do you know that term?
I don't think I do.
So kind of in the, I guess, kind of indie horror genre, I guess, in more recent years. So yeah, so what you mentioned kind of sounds similar as far as like watching the footage and like, waiting for that one moment where something happens, right? So it just reminded me, and those that have seen these kind of games will know, is that there's certain observation duty is just a genre, but I think the first one was literally called that, where it's just security camera footage of a house, and there's like, maybe 10 different cameras all throughout the house. And you have to click through the different cameras and find anomalies, right? And it'll be just, and of course it's horror spooky stuff. So it'll be like a, chair moved out of place or items disappear, or sometimes it's a straight up ghost. And so you have to report these kind of things. And so it's one of those things that kind of remind me as far as, observation duty can help with this kind of, like you mentioned, like staring at a screen all day and watching for these certain patterns. And so like an observation duty type game is exactly that. It's like even more focused on that, where it's like, no, you're literally looking kind of like the Where's Waldo kind of thing for those that remember that, what's different? Where's the thing? Can you spot the difference? Can you find the thing? Right.
Yeah, and well, I think probably the first game in the genre would have been, I forget its name, because it was the other game that the U.S. Congress was going off about it with Mortal Kombat, which ultimately created the ESRB.
Hmm.
But yeah,
and
I
trying
mean,
to
we do have that. I mean, obviously, there's no ninjas appearing out of nowhere. There's no, Cthulhu doesn't appear in the sky and you need to drink your potion to avoid problems.
right.
I mean, it's similar, but it's down to earth.
Yeah, exactly. So much, yeah. So really fun just trying to talk through these different kind of examples and just how gaming has helped you and how that's kind of come about. So I hope you can take away some a little bit as well as far as yeah the maybe you have to check out observation duty just to see if it's up your alley because as far as just watching a screen and trying to pick out the differences, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I I'll be honest, I won't because
Okay,
I do my best to not take work home with me
right.
anymore.
It's like you do that for your day job anyway. So
Yeah, like I
right.
used to go to conventions as characters from Ace Attorney, but now I'm like, no, this is my job now. That doesn't
Yeah.
feel right.
You're like, I'll just slowly distance that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
want to go and not be at work.
Yep. All right. I now completely understand. So Matt, I'll just say, yeah, thank you so much for joining today. And thank you so much for talking with me. And I did have one final question before we go.
Yeah,
And I
of
do
course.
ask everyone that joins the podcast, and that is, what is your favorite video game?
Well, thank you for having me, and I guess my current favorite game, I'm just gonna say Advance Wars because that's a timeless classic.
Ah, there we go.
Then I'm
Love it.
gonna pick something that in 2 weeks I probably won't ever play again.
Yep. I thought for sure it was going to be Ace Attorney, right? So,
Oh God, no. No, and I'm like, I love this series. Don't get me wrong, but if you actually know how court works, you're like, this is so wildly inappropriate.
yeah, completely understand.
And I mean, to anyone who wants to, court is generally open to public, and you are more than welcome to go watch if you don't believe me. No one will
Right.
find it weird for you to go to you and spend an afternoon witnessing it, even an exciting trial or even a boring trial.
Mhm. Now, you do say objection, though, right?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, it's much more, I object, relevance, or judge it's hearsay. I almost said heresy. I'm sorry.
That'd be a fun objection. So,
Yeah, I mean, maybe in Iran where enemy of God is
yeah,
a charge, that's the
that's
thing. But here we don't do that.
got it.
But I mean, it's much more restrained. I mean,
No slamming the desk
no
and
one's
all that.
breaking the desk. No one is, shout. Okay, sometimes attorneys do yell at each other, which is wildly inappropriate, but it does happen
Right.
occasionally. Hopefully, the judge shuts that down, but it does happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, thank you again, Matt, for being here, and it's been fantastic. So, and guys, if you want to learn more about just how to use those kind of gaming skills that we talked about and really helping level up your career, definitely check me out, dragonmorexp.com. Start your journey there. Contact me, and we'll get you set up because we'd love to help you improve your life through gaming. So, guys, thank you again, Matt, for joining.
Of course,
Uh,
thank you, Daniel.
Fantastic. And guys, again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.